All right, welcome back to the channel. Buddy Mcgirt says that he could train Deontay Wilder to beat Tyson Fury with a few minor adjustments. And I love hearing it. He also takes some, not shots at JD's, but he definitely is critical of JD's in this interview that I'm getting this information from. Let's talk about what Buddy Mcgirt has to say about Deontay Wilder in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, as we know, Deontay Wilder is no longer the WBC heavyweight champion of the world because he lost in convincing fashion to Tyson Fury in that last fight. But because Deontay Wilder was the WBC champion and because he's got common sense, he put into that contract a rematch clause which allows him to get another shot at the title right away. And that is what he's decided to do. He's exercised the rematch clause. The fight was supposed to be in July. Now it looks like it's going to be sometime in October, provided all of this stuff that's going on with the health of people in general in the United States. We hopefully that it will be in the October-November time frame and it doesn't continue on. But in preparation for that, people are still talking boxing because that's what we do. We talk this boxing. So I'm scouring the news articles, reading all the news articles that are coming out about boxing. And by the way, there's a lot of them coming out every day. So if you're looking for your boxing fix, hey, go ahead and just Google some boxing topics. There's going to be a lot of articles, a lot of good information, interesting information that is out there that you might not necessarily pay attention to when fights are very, very active. But this conversation and this interview with Buddy Mcgirt is one of those things. Buddy Mcgirt said that he could train Deontay Wilder to beat Tyson Fury with a few minor adjustments. Like the tone of it was like not a big deal. You change a couple things, nobody can beat Deontay Wilder. And that's Buddy Mcgirt that said that. Now, why would Buddy Mcgirt be considered an expert on that? Because Buddy Mcgirt has had more than one rebuilding project, dude. And the last one was taking a guy, Sergey Kovalev, who lost by knockout to somebody named, what the hell is his name? Not Sullivan Barrera, but Alvarez, Elander Alvarez. See, Elander Alvarez, I just say Alvarez because I think it's Elander Alvarez. But Alvarez was a 160-pound WBO champ, 175-pound WBO champ. Very, very good fighter. Had been a mandatory for Adonis Stevenson for a long time. Adonis Stevenson kept paying him off, kept paying him step-aside money. But he finally gets his shot for a belt against Sergey Kovalev. And he beats up and stops Sergey Kovalev. Then Sergey Kovalev makes a change to Buddy Mcgirt. Now, originally, remember this is what happened to Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev was with John David Jackson. He and John David Jackson had a falling out. They weren't communicating very well. Sergey Kovalev loses 2 fights to Andre Ward. Then he comes in, I think, for one fight with somebody else after he got knocked out by Andre Ward. He said he was going to go to this Russian coach. He goes to a Russian coach. Under the Russian coach, he winds up getting knocked out by Alvarez. He leaves the Russian coach, goes to Buddy Mcgirt. Buddy Mcgirt trains him to fight Alvarez, and he beats Alvarez pillar to post on a few adjustments. Beats him pillar to post. So that's an example of Buddy Mcgirt taking somebody who had a knockout loss against a fighter, bringing him back to win the next fight. And that's what Sergey Kovalev did. He also was very famous for what he did with Arturo Gatti. Arturo Gatti was somebody that was not considered to be a very highly skilled boxer before he got with Buddy Mcgirt. Buddy Mcgirt changed his style up a little bit, allowed him to box a little bit more than he did. And he had a nice second portion of his career and rebuilding portion of his career after those Mickey Ward wars with Buddy Mcgirt. So Buddy Mcgirt is also a former world champion. I believe he's a former world champion. I also know for sure he had a great fight with Pernell Whitaker, gave Pernell Whitaker one of the toughest fights. So this guy is somebody that has done it inside of the ring. He's a guy that's done it as a trainer. He knows what he's talking about. Now, for him to say that he believes that he can just make a few minor adjustments with Deontay Wilder and then nobody can beat Deontay Wilder, that's something that's very believable, because Deontay Wilder has something that nobody else has, and that's the ability to put you to sleep with a single shot. And the fact that, so if he could have somebody that would teach him how to set that up, how to do a couple different things, whatever it is that Buddy McGirt's talking about, I don't know what Buddy McGirt's talking about, but it's reasonable for me not to know what Buddy McGirt's talking about because I ain't Buddy McGirt. So, but I do believe that Buddy McGirt is clearly one of the best trainers in boxing, one of the most renowned experts of boxing that we have right now. So I'll take his word for it and believe that that's something he could do. Now, in talking about that though, he does mention the current training staff of Deontay Wilder. He mentioned Deas, and he mentioned the second guy in charge, which is Mark Breland. Now, with Mark Breland, he says he believes Mark Breland is a good guy. He's a good boxing guy, knows his boxing. Clearly, Mark Breland does. Mark Breland himself is a former world champion, and he's an Olympic gold medalist, one of the best Olympic fighters out in the most successful Olympic fighters in history of the U.S. So clearly he knows boxing. He says with Deas though, he doesn't sound so sure about Deas, because he says, look, man, in order to train these guys, you got to be able to not just tell them, you have to be able to show them and explain to them why. You have to be able to show them and explain to them why. And that makes sense, that if you are a former world champion and you can actually do what it is that what you're asking him to do, that would have more bearing, or should be able to allow a boxer to have a little bit more confidence in what you're saying. But also, it could allow, just because you've actually done this stuff in the ring, it could actually allow you to explain the why better, because maybe somebody that's not fought at that level doesn't really understand why. They know that you should, but they might not get the whole reason why. So if there's any inquiry, they might not be able to provide all of the information that somebody that's more experienced can. Long way around the block of saying, look, man, I've done this. I said this when there's a rumor that Deontay Wilder fired Mark Breland. My thing was, dude, you fired the wrong guy. Clearly, the dude the guy that needs to be, if not replaced, needs to be supplemented is going to be Deas, because Deas just is not he's not a world champion fighter. It's not what he is. I mean, he's been in the ring for a lot of world championship fights because he got a guy that is incredibly talented, and he's been there for the ride the whole time. But does he have a history working with a bunch of different world champions? In how many title fights has this guy been in that did not involve Deontay Wilder? Right? So, Deontay Wilder more than likely is being loyal to a fault, more than likely. There was a lot of conversations around Anthony Joshua when Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz about whether or not Rod McCracken needed to stay, because Rod McCracken had been his coach since he was in the amateurs, and he's like, look, man, that guy was coaching you when you're in the amateurs, you need something new for the professionals. Right? You can't working with the same guy you've been working with, sparring with amateurs, all that stuff. There's a lot of pointing the finger at Rod McCracken after that Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz. And quite honestly, it's just as reasonable to do the same thing for Deas right now with Deontay Wilder. I personally think that he should bring in Buddy Mcgirt. There's a lot of people have been asking about who should replace him, who could he work with, this, that, and the other thing. And obviously Buddy Mcgirt's name came up pretty much every time. People are like, Derek James or Buddy Mcgirt or Ronnie Shields. I really do. After hearing what Buddy Mcgirt said, I definitely believe that it should be Buddy Mcgirt, because Buddy Mcgirt is saying, look, this is just a couple of adjustments. This is not a lot of complex stuff. It's just a couple of adjustments he needs to make. When he makes those adjustments, then nobody will be able to beat him. Now, that doesn't seem like he's going to try to rebuild Deontay Wilder from the ground up, but just give him a couple things to do, some things that he can implement pretty quickly that will improve his performance. And that stuff is possible with Deontay Wilder. So, hey, man, I'm with Buddy Mcgirt, man. Get Buddy Mcgirt. Bring Buddy Mcgirt into the camp. You got all kind of time, Deontay. All kind of time. If it's not till October, that means you got at least 3 months. You got at least 3 months of just relaxing and letting your body rest. That could be 3 months you spend with Buddy Mcgirt. You could spend with Buddy Mcgirt going over what it is that you need to do in training camp and give you that much more time to implement it. But I would go with Buddy Mcgirt. I would definitely keep JD's though, and keep the rest of the team for continuity's sake, because there's no need to throw everybody out. But to bring in a new counselor like on that level, and you got the money to pay him, I would do that. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.